You and your family need to get wealthy, not just rich. In order to survive later in life with inflation, you have to have millions of dollars of investments saved up so that you and your family can survive and thrive later in life. So I will die on this hill talking about this topic because you have to get rich and wealthy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of the Money Mondays. I am doing a solo episode. We are parked here at the wild jungle, right next to zebras, camels, ostriches. Oh my, they're right outside. There's over 209 animals right out here at Wild Jungle, WYLD. If you want to check it out on Instagram, we are not open to the public, but Wild Jungle is becoming a brand with toys, products, pet vitamins, all these different things for children and pets. Okay, why am I doing a solo episode? Because I want to talk to you guys about the speech that I do at live events. My speech is called 40, 40, 20. And since the Money Mondays was literally crafted because I've been giving the same speech for years and different versions of it, I'm going to walk you through a different version of 40, 40, 20. What is it? It's 40% low risk investing, where I want to try to make between 5 and 9% for the year. 40% medium risk investing, where I want to make between 10 to 30% for the year. And 20% high risk investing. I call this my shot at glory. If I get this right, I want 4x, 8x, 12x, 20x, something crazy to happen. And if I get it wrong, or it takes a long time, I'm hoping that the medium risk and the low risk covers the high risk. Okay. So on the Money Mondays, we're going to keep these episodes to under 40 minutes. This one will be even less than that. The reason for it is, as I always mention, the average workout is 45 minutes and the average commute to work is 45 minutes. So our episodes will always be around 40 minutes or less. This one will be even shorter because I'm just going to focus on this one topic for this episode. I could talk about this for hours because the 40, 40, 20 model is what I've been doing for years and years and years, and I'll always do it for this main reason. I know I would get addicted to high risk investing, but I can't just do high risk investing because that can take a long time. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it's huge. Sometimes things go great. Sometimes they don't, etc. I don't only want to do medium risk investing. Some people get addicted to that range, 10 to 30% a year. It's a great, great revenue. Can really compound into great wealth if you do it consistently. But you can't only do that because you need some shots at glory. You need some of those big high risk things sometimes in your life, even if you just put a little bit in. And you definitely can't do all low risk because boring. I'm not just going to do 5%, 7% a year when you're just barely fighting with inflation. Right now, inflation is 8 to 9% a year. 8 to 9% a year. So if you make 7 or 8%, you're just kind of breaking even with the economy. And by the way, inflation is not a theory. It is reality. Do you guys remember when muffins were $3 and $4? Well, now they're $5. You remember when milk and bread was $3 and $4? Now it's $5. Remember when gas was $2-3? Now it's $5. That's not only 8 or 9%, that's even more increase just over the last few years. You used to buy a Ford for $50,000, now it's $57,000. Your money spends 9% a year less than what it did. This is real life. So if you've been working your butt off to save up $100,000, 2025, your $100,000 spends like it's $91,000. 2026, your $100,000 spends like it's $83,000. 2027 spends like it's $73,000. You see where I'm going? It's not a theory. It's not political. It's not a conspiracy. It's just math. Your dollars spend less. Remember when your parents grew up, they bought a house for $100,000. Now it's $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. Remember when the gas was 99 cents? Like, do you just think about the things in your world when hamburgers were 29 cents, then they're 40 cents and $1 and $2, $3, $4, etc. Inflation is very, very, very real. It is not a theory. It's not a joke. And it's very important to you. Now, why am I so passionate about money? Why do I do the Money Mondays and why do I speak about 40, 40, 20 at so many hundreds of events? Here's why. I want you to think about this very intently, especially if you have children. If you have children, they are likely to live to over 100 years old. Some of them might live to 105, 110, 120, 130, even more if they get some robotic arms or some crazy things that happen with technology over the course of time. But outside of the technology part, they are growing up in a health-focused society. You and I that are listening to this podcast, you're probably 25, 35, 45, 55, 65 years old. When you grew up, there wasn't an Equinox and a Whole Foods on every corner. They didn't have health food stores. No one was talking about mental health. There was no fitness apps. There was no First Form supplements. You didn't have those type of things 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You had Jack in the Box, Burger King, McDonald's, and Taco Bell on every single quarter. Now, there are health food stores. There are whole health food sections. There's so many snack bars and beverages and drinks that are much more health food conscious. Back in the days, did you want Coke, Pepsi, or Sprite? Right? Nowadays, there are so many beverages that are healthier for you, like BLK water with fulvic acid, or like Rise coffee. There's better for you brands with mushroom inside, or there are just ingredients that didn't exist 15, 20, 30 years ago. No one was thinking about it. No one was talking about it. There wasn't healthy food companies like Icon Meals. Like Icon Meals can ship you food right this second, and it's all healthy meal prep style. Like Icon Meals wasn't here 20, 30 years ago. You didn't have someone that would just ship you healthy meals. It didn't exist. And so I've been focusing very heavy on this for this purpose, because your children are probably going to live to over 100 years old. Why am I harping on this? Well, if they're growing up healthier, they're working out because they're more conscious about it. They're doing yoga and breath work and things that nobody talked about 20, 30 years ago. They're doing ice cold plunges and saunas and sound baths and all these things that have now become cool for society, and people are doing it at scale, and it's becoming very important to people to be health focused and health conscious. Well, they're going to live longer lives. And if they do, God willing, they live to 107 years old, what happens if your child wants to retire at 70? Most people want to retire at 65 to 75 years old. So let's say they want to retire at 70 years old, right in the middle. That means they need 37 years of money saved up if they don't want to work. Back in our days, our parents' average age to pass away was 77 years old and 73 years old. So men were 73, women at 77. It started to get closer, 75 to 77 later. Nowadays, it's 83 for men, 85.5 to be exact, for women. So if you retire at 70, you needed like 13 to 15 years nowadays. What if they live to 107 and need 37 years of money? Let's break that down. Let's say they want to just get by on $5,000 a month, which is going to be hard to do, especially later in life because of inflation. Let's just say $5,000 a month. And let's not talk about anything medically related or any tragedies or any of their kids, just them, $5,000 a month. Well, let's do the math. $60,000 a year times 37 years is $2.3 million. Do you know that the average American right now has $1,200 saved up? That's a pretty big disparity, a pretty big gap of $1,200 saved up and $2.3 million. You see where I'm going? If your child lives to 107 and they don't save up $2.3 million, they're not going to have 37 years of money, not counting inflation, not counting medical situations, not counting anything. Just getting by with $5,000 a month. What if they want $10,000 a month? What if they want to live on $10,000 a month? What if they have children that they need money to help them with their college tuition, and they need money for XYZ, and they need money, and they need $10,000 a month? Well, 120,000 times 37 is over $4 million. Do you see where I'm going? We have to talk about money. This podcast has to happen. You know, right now we're number 34 in the country of all podcasts, not just like a certain category of all podcasts. We're number 34 right now. We stay at number 1, number 2 in the entrepreneur category, and we're always in the top 5, typically number 3 in the business category, because this topic is important. So I implore you, I ask you, it's very important to me for you guys to share this podcast. Liking, commenting, subscribing is super, super important for us. If you noticed, I haven't run ads. We've been doing this for well over a year now, a year and a half. I'm not running ads. We spend $70,000 a month to keep this podcast going ad-free. So it's really important for me. Now, when you have these discussions about money, think about this topic. If your child lives to 107 and they need $2 or $3 million saved up, $4 or $5 million saved up, but they want to have $10,000 a month, what do you have to do? You have to have discussions about money with your friends, family, and followers now, today, and every day. It is an important topic because it's reality. There's nothing rude about talking about money. We have to remove that stigma from our minds. That phrase shouldn't even exist anymore. That concept shouldn't exist anymore. We have to have discussion about money. It is mandatory. We have to talk about it. Okay, so let's get back into it. 40, 40, 20. The importance of it is because you're going to need to get not just rich, but wealthy to survive later in life. And some people think that's rude, or I can't believe that. You know, they have screw the rich and blah, blah, blah. And for some reason, they're trying to villainize being rich and wealthy. That is actual insanity. Like, it's clinically insane. When people talk crap about billionaires or rich people, why on earth would you be mad because someone owns 11 franchises of Chick-fil-A and got rich? Or they built up a landscaping company with 40 locations? Or they built up a tech company like Amazon? Why? You use Amazon. How can you get mad about Jeff Bezos? You're on Facebook right now listening to the podcast, and you're mad about Mark Zuckerberg being a bazillionaire. Why on earth would you ever be mad at someone's success? Now, the goal and the important topic is you and your family need to get wealthy, not just rich. In order to survive later in life with inflation, you have to have millions of dollars of investments saved up so that you and your family can survive and thrive later in life. So I will die on this hill talking about this topic because you have to get rich and wealthy. All right, so let me walk you through 40, 40, 20. On the low risk side, when you want to make between 5 and 9% a year, this is the boring investments. This needs to be low risk or no risk. What's fascinating is, right this second, household name banks that you probably bank with, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, etc., are offering 5.1%, 4.6%, 5.3% to lock up in CDs inside your own bank. Is there a risk that Wells Fargo, Bank of America, or Chase goes bankrupt? I guess. Some tiny, but let me just say this. If one of those household name banks implodes, we got way more to worry about in our society than the 10 grand you saved up in that account. They're not just going to implode with no notice. Let's just be clear about that. And so you could lock up your own money inside your own bank and get 5.1% a year. That is crazy. Do you know what it was just a couple years ago? 0.5%. If you got 1%, you were crushing it. But after fees, you made nothing. But at 5.1%, that's real money. Like real money. Especially if you start to save up 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, etc. As I talk through the math, it's all relative to you. Whether I say 10 grand or 10 million, it's just math. The percentages are the same. Your 5.1% are the same for 10 grand as they are for a million. It's all relative to your situation. Okay. The S&P 500, which you didn't think I was going to say, is actually in the low risk category. Even though the stock market goes up and down, the top 500 companies, which is what the S&P 500 is, have averaged, brace yourselves, over the last 92 years, 11.1% a year. That is better than any of your investment advisors consistently over the course of time. Keep in mind, over that 92-year period, recessions, depressions, wars, Holocaust situations, nightmares, media, everything that could happen happened. And more, we had the whole world shut down a few years ago. Like literally you couldn't go to restaurants. And our S&P 500 has withstood the test of time for 92 years and growing. And it continues to year after year. Are there roller coasters of the price points along the way? Of course they are. But they're averaged out across the top 500 companies. Most of those companies you've never heard of. They're making $40 billion a year, making like little chips, like metal chips that you've never heard of, semiconductors. They're making $21 billion a year, making plastic. You don't know what the heck I'm talking about, and I don't know them either. There are a lot of companies out there that are just making billions and billions of dollars. You've got no idea about them, and that's okay. They're just going to keep fighting the good fight. And then you hear about some that get famous like Nvidia. That's one of the best performing stocks in history. You are dollar cost averaging. Now here in the middle section, there's 3 core topics. The stock market being one of them, real estate, and cash flowing businesses. On the stock market side, there are 10 main stocks that I invest into over and over and over and over and over. And I don't care about the price point at any given moment. I do not dollar cost average on purpose. Here's why. There are a lot of people that can teach you about stock market. There's a lot of people that can teach you about trading. There's some really great people that are out there that are super, super good at it. There's guys like Timothy Sykes that you can actually buy their courses. I think he's got one that's $5,500 and one that's a couple $100 that they will teach you how to day trade. I don't day trade. I'm glad he does, and he's really good at teaching it. He's done tens of millions of dollars of teaching about day trading. I don't day trade, and here's why. I have nothing against it. I don't have the time to, and I'm not going to be as good as someone like Timothy or people that study. And so what I do is I buy the exact same stocks over and over and over of companies that I believe will be here in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years, and 40 years. If you're listening to this podcast right now, I need you to do me a favor. Wherever you are, even if you're by yourself, raise your hand if you think that Apple will be here in 5 years. Okay, now hopefully you're raising your hand because you're a cuckoo bird if you didn't raise your hand. Do you think it'll be here in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years? I know you do. And even if you're trying to like be slick about it or try to get, nope, you do. And you're going to buy the iPhone. Even if you like Samsung, someone in your circle is going to buy the iPhone. And because of that, that stock, why on earth would I sell my Apple stock? If I think that Apple will be here in 5 years and 10 years, and yet year after year after year, they break records of financials, more revenue, more profits, more this, more that. They made a $3,800 pair of glasses and had lines down the street. When we're in a recession, right? That's what everyone says. You couldn't buy these freaking $3,800 glasses that they just came out with. People were going nuts for them. Sold out. iPhone 15, iPhone 16, iPhone 17, year after year, the people in that car that you're in right now, or the people that are in the gym next to you working out, they're going to buy iPhones. And so are their friends and family. So why the hell would I ever sell my Apple stock? Why? Raise your hand if you think that Walmart will be here in 5 years. 10 years? 15 years? They've got 3,000 or 4,000 stores, and they're going to keep adding hundreds of stores a year. And when the market is doing really well, people shop at Walmart. We're in a recession, people shop at Walmart. Doesn't matter what happens in the world, people shop at Walmart. Can the stock go up and down every month, every day? Of course it can. But over the course of time, Walmart's going to open more and more stores. I just want to own the Walmart stock. It's not rocket science. And I can keep going, and you can kind of guess where I'm going to go with it. Do you think that Google will be here? Here's an interesting one. Google might get replaced with AI, ChatGPT, those type of things. Google owns that stuff too. Google Ventures just put up $1 bazillion into those type of companies and to the competitors of ChatGPT also, just in case. And to the competitors that are doing AI, just in case. So no matter what happens, Google Ventures has deployed tens of billions of dollars of investment capital into these companies over the last few decades. And so I want to own Google stock. Can it go up and down tonight? The price point? Of course it can. Can it go crazy and drop next week? Sure. But over the course of time, I want to bet on Google being here year after year after year. Do you think Elon Musk is crazy? Yes. But he's also the only human in history to have 4 multi-billion-dollar companies at the exact same damn time. I want to bet on that guy. He's going to figure it out. And he's got the capital to do it. Whether he wants to buy Twitter for $40 billion for fun, or he wants to fix Tesla and change the world, or put SpaceX up in the, like, Starlink, the most amazing thing for Wi-Fi, which is changing our entire globe. It's insane how good Starlink is and how much better it's getting. That you can use it, Starlink, in an RV motorhome like this. You can place it out in the mountains. People can have Wi-Fi. That will make him a multi-billionaire, no matter what happens to Tesla, Starlink, etc. Why? I believe in Tesla year after year is going to figure it out. They might at some point just become a battery company. If Tesla ever decided, hopefully Elon Musk is listening to this, if Tesla ever decided to make cell phone batteries that lasted longer, they would become $1 trillion company. So Elon Musk, if you want to be a trillionaire and really take us to Mars, make better batteries for cell phones. They're the most used device on the planet that's never going to slow down, that people carry with them 24 hours a day. They would rather have their cell phone than their wallet. They would rather have their cell phone than food and water. Make a better battery, please, Mr. Elon Musk. Now, year after year, Tesla's stock has gone up. There have been tragic roller coasters of price. It doesn't matter because every year they sell another million cars that are 40 grand, 50 grand, 60 grand, 70 grand, 80 grand. You can do the math. Tesla's worth more than like Ford, GM, etc. combined. That's insane. That's insane. However, it's not stopping. And so I want to own that. Raise your hand if you like Netflix. I do. I don't even watch TV very much, but when I do, it's going to be on Netflix because it's very efficient, it's very beautiful, it's very fast, everything about it's great, and it's around $20 a month. And you probably have Netflix for the last decade, and you don't have $20 a month worth of Netflix stock. Do you know that Netflix is one of the best performing stocks in history, and you don't have it? Remember when I was bringing up iPhones? And I mentioned the iPhone's $1,500, $1,200, $1,300. You probably don't have $1,500, $1,200, or $1,300 of Apple stock. Let me give you a quick thing for you to just noodle on for a second. I don't even like to use the word noodle on, but it fits here. If every time the iPhone came out, iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., $800, $1,200, $1,100, there's 15 of them. If every time the iPhone came out, in that exact same day, you bought Apple stock for the same amount, $800, $1,200, etc. Does anybody know how much money you'd have in Apple stock for the last 15 iPhones? That's right. Over $1 million. And you're sitting there trying to like pick apart the things that I'm saying about my stock picks. Buy some Apple stock. When people say this is not investment advice, yes it is. Buy some Apple stock. Is it going to go up and down this month, this year? No idea. Anybody that tells you they know what the price is going to be is lying or delusional. What I do know is they're going to sell more iPhones every single year as long as we're alive. And nothing's going to change about that except the new iteration that they're going to figure out. AI pops up, they'll figure it out. New technology makes it so your iPhone should just be implanted into your ear or your eyeball. They're going to be the one to figure it out. Whatever happens in society, they'll be the ones to figure it out. And so I want to buy Apple stock. All right. Let me digress away from the stock market. I don't try to day trade. I just buy the same stocks, the same companies, year after year after year. Some extra money comes in from a speaking gig. Great, buy some stock. Some extra money comes in from XYZ. Sweet, buy some stock. You're making money while you're working and something happens. You make an extra $5 grand, $2 grand, 200 grand. The math's irrelevant. You can buy some stock of the companies that you like. Think about the companies that you like, that you shop at, that you buy, that are in your world. Why don't you buy a little bit of that stock over and over and over? All right, the real estate side of this 10 to 30% is where a lot of you guys live. It's where a lot of people want to be a part of. There's multiple options in the real estate market. You could buy things to rent. You could buy things to flip. You could buy things to Airbnb and do some other fun, fancy things with. Or you could buy and hold. You have decisions to make. Depends on the capital you have to work with. Which one do you want to do? Depends on how much you want to allocate. Depends on your threshold of pain. Because sometimes, flipping can get hard. It spends a lot of money to flip a house. And you don't know if you're going to sell it and for how much. Sometimes you get a rental property and then someone's renting it for 2-3 years and then it's vacant for 3 months, 5 months, etc. How much pain can you handle? Sometimes you get Airbnbs and you're crushing it and then laws change. There are hard parts and great parts about the real estate market. You have to choose for yourself what type of things fits you. What I will tell you is it's fantastic for your taxes and it's fantastic if you don't ever sell it. If you can buy pieces of real estate in main areas, main cities, and nearby, it is really hard for you to lose unless something tragic happens. And even then, over the course of time, they're probably going to go back up. Kind of like the example I mentioned earlier. Your parents' house that they bought for 100 grand is probably 300K, 400K, 500K, 600K, etc. And a lot of them made their wealth by selling that house, and all of them would regret it. All of them. Because the house that they sold for 400K is probably 600, 700, 800, and one day is going to be $1 million. It just is. There is no more dirt. And we're in a society that's millions and millions and millions of units behind schedule to make more houses and make more apartments, make more condos because of supplies, because of labor, because construction companies, a lot of them went bankrupt. There's a whole different, I can do a whole podcast about that, but what happened in the real estate market. We are way behind schedule and nothing's going to make us catch up. And so because of that, housing markets stay strong and people want to buy and they want to rent and they want to stay at Airbnbs. And so if you can invest in real estate and you have the capital to do so, and you can buy things and just hold on to them, you will win long term. Even if prices go up and down along the way over the course of time, if you buy properties in major cities or next to them, in major counties and next to them, like you were somewhere and you're not just buying in the middle of the woods, if you're buying in real areas, you are going to win over the course of time. If you like to fix and flip, just keep in mind that I would prefer if you use an expert or studied before you went and did that. And any of the things I'm talking about, you got to study. You got to study the stocks that you want to buy. You got to study the real estate market. You got to study the things that I'm talking about. You got to study and understand those things. I'm not a registered investment advisor. I'm a realist. I really talk about these things that I really invest into for years. I will show you my stock portfolio. I will show you when I buy Bitcoin in 2014. I can show you the very first trades on my Coinbase account. I will show you when I will show you these things because I do what's called build in public. I will never tell you to invest in something that I'm not in it with. I will never talk about things that I don't actually know and live, because if I don't know it, I just will say I don't know about it, or I'll get you an expert to be the guest on the show. When I'm talking about it, I only talk about the things that I live and breathe in. Okay, cash flowing businesses. What's interesting is we're in a time that there are 3.2 million cash flowing businesses that are for sale in the year 2024. That is compelling, and most of them are by baby boomers and senior citizens and people that are wanting to retire. That provides a lot of opportunities for you to be able to buy those, acquire them, merge with them, consult for them, invest in them, etc. A lot of interesting deals come up when people want to sell their business. The other concept is, what if you have a friend that has like 7 gyms or 7 salons or 7 pizza restaurants and they want to open up number 8? That is a medium to low risk investment. Now, can your friend's 8th gym fail? 8th pizza restaurant fail? 8th salon fail? Of course it could. Very less likely, because they've already opened up 7 of them and they've gone through the struggles, the pains. They figured things out. They know the right hours, the right staff, the right accounting, the right processes, the right vendors. They figured a lot of things out to open up location number 8. So that is a medium to low risk investment. If your friend is opening their first pizza restaurant, their first salon, their first gym, that's categorized way over here, high risk investment. Now, does that mean you can't invest into your buddy's new gym or new pizza restaurant, new salon? Sure you can. She might be opening a salon, that's awesome, but that is a high risk investment when it's her first one, because she doesn't know the hours perfectly yet. She doesn't know all the vendors yet. She doesn't know all the things yet because she hasn't done it yet. No matter how many books you read, information is useful, but then you got to go live it. Now, that same lady's opening her 7th salon, 8th salon, etc. That becomes back here medium risk or low risk investing. And so I like cash flowing businesses. You guys have seen I invested heavily into Everbowl. Everbowl, I invested back in, we had like 13 or 14 locations. I ended up buying 17 locations with me and a friend named Cole Hatter. The business now has 94 locations, and Everbowl opens a new location every 6 days. That is a cash flowing business that does tens of millions of dollars amongst those 94 locations every year in cash flow. I like cash flowing businesses. So I've gone quite deep in Everbowl. Retail side, I opened up Cards and Coffee. We have 9 retail stores. We've done over $30 million in sales in our first couple of years. And I like retail stores, but I like low overhead retail stores. Cards and Coffee. Actually, you guys, by the way, you can watch the new TV show about Cards and Coffee on goingpublic.com. Go to goingpublic.com. It's only 75 minutes for all 5 episodes. You'll see me on there battling with Floyd Mayweather and talking about cards and coffee in the sports card industry. You'll see me get kidnapped by a Navy SEAL, which I did not like and I did not expect. And it was very difficult, but I had to escape by the back of a moving vehicle, and I was, tied up and I had a bag over my head. Very intense. I had to pass a lie detector test, and I was the only one that passed, by the way. So I was very proud about that part. But it's an interesting show. Go to goingpublic.com and you can see me battle and talk about the sports card industry at the same time. It's kind of like Shark Tank meets the Great American Race, or whatever you call it. Like, it was a very intense show. So I say that because I like the sports card market, and so I opened up all these stores. We've done a lot of revenue. And Cards and Coffee, I have a low overhead because I keep the locations small, and I keep it to 3 or 4 employees per store. Same thing with Everbowl. Locations are small, 400, 800, 600, 1200 square feet, 900 square feet, etc. Only needs a couple employees at a time. And so I like retail, but I don't like big overhead. And so I like cash flowing businesses. You've heard me talk about them. I'll always talk about them because it's a really interesting category. When you find a proven operator, would I have invested into Everbowl number one? Maybe, but it would have been a very high risk thing. When Jeff Fenster opened up Everbowl number one, it was like, I think he said 280,000. It was really expensive, maybe over 300,000. Now he opens them for like 120,000, 160,000, 140,000. It's always 120 to 160. So it's like half the amount that he spent on the first one because he learned about the vendors, he learned about construction, he learned general contractors, he learned out where to get the supplies. He just learned how to get better and better, more efficient. And so I invested when there was 13 or 14 locations, and I'm happy to pay a bit of a premium on the valuation, being a safer investment investing later. All right, I'm going to wrap it up on the high risk investing side. It's called high risk investing because it's high risk. So my fingers are crossed. If you can't see me, maybe you can feel that I have my fingers crossed right this second. If you're just listening to this on audio, high risk investing is fun. It's exciting. It's torture. It's everything, because even when things go good, you're typically not getting any money back until a company has what's called a liquidity event. They go public, they get acquired, they do a merger, something big happens. It's typically when you can get money back or make a bunch of money. Along the way, even if a business goes from 1 million to 4 million to 10 million bucks in sales in 3 years, you probably got 0, 0, and 0 along the way, because they need to reinvest that capital to keep scaling that business. You should want them to do that. You should not want them to give you back your 25 grand or your 100 grand or your 50 grand, whatever, along the way, because if they use that money and they use it well, and they're getting a 2 or 3 or 4, 4x ROAS, which is a return on ad spend, you want them to do that as much as possible to keep growing that business and growing your valuation. I look at high risk investing as two main topics: angel investing and cryptocurrency. But I only focus on the main cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, Bitcoin is the number one performing investment asset in the history of the world. Let me repeat. This is not a joke. This is not a line. This is the fact. Bitcoin is the number one performing investment asset in the history of the world. Fun fact, Monster Energy Drink is the number one performing stock in the history of the world. Monster Energy Drink. So in Bitcoin and Ethereum, these are things that I believe we're going to keep going up year after year forever. Can it have roller coasters? You've seen it. Of course, Bitcoin drops, it crashes all the time. But year after year, over the last 14 years, it's actually only had one losing year. That's a very compelling thing as an investor or a gambler to think about. Now, on the angel investing side, you're taking a risk. You're betting, let's call it 25 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever it is that you're putting in, into a company, into your buddy's clothing line, or they make pillows, or they're a new tech app, or a supplement company, or cannabis, or whatever the thing is. Typically, an angel investment will have a liquidity event on average 5 to 7 years later. It's a long time. Now, when they hit it right, your 50 grand might become 500,000. But when they get it wrong and it doesn't work out, you only lose the 50,000. Let me explain. When I say only lose 50,000, it's not that 50,000 is not a lot of money. It's a huge amount of money. However, it's a 1-to-1 risk loss ratio. You put up 50 grand, you can only ever lose that $50,000. But if you get it right and you pick a good company and it turns into 400,000, 500,000, 600,000, now you've got an 8x, 10x, 12x return on your capital. So 1-to-1 risk loss ratio. However, the upside, it's not infinite, but it's like that. It's that similar concept. It can go up a lot. There was a lady on that Going Public TV show, actually, named Cyan Bannister. She put in $50,000 into a little company called Uber. Her and the fund that did that investment through Jason Calacanis returned, I think it was over $300 million on 50 grand. You can look up the exact amount, but it's around $300 million for around $50,000 into Uber. Now, that is obviously a historical story. That is not normal. And most of the time you put up your 50 grand, you're often going to lose it. You can reduce your risk by doing these things. Find a founder that you believe in, or a founding team, an executive team that you believe in. 2, it has to be a company, a product, or a service that people care about. How do you know they care? People vote with their wallets. If people are buying it for years at a time, that's something you might want to invest into because they've proven that people care. Number 3, is it scalable? I know that people care, but can you take it from 2 million to 20 million to 200 million, etc.? Can it get big? It doesn't have to be huge like a grand slam, but can it get big? And then 4th, can they back up what they told you? That's where I bring in my CEO, my accountant, and my lawyer to rip it to shreds and figure out, does this thing make sense? Are the things that they promised me, the CEO, the president, etc., is it all true? Is it all backed up? Can I scale this thing? Is the paperwork correct? Are their taxes done right? Is their accounting done right, etc.? And if you do those things, you will lower your risk on angel investing. But if you get it right, you can have a really good return with a 1-to-1 risk-loss ratio. All right, guys. So that was the 40-40-20. I talk about it different ways. If I did another podcast right this second, talk about 40-40-20, everything I just said would be different, except with the exact same result, exact same meaning, exact same categories, exact same topics, right? I would talk about low-risk investing. I would talk about medium risk in the 3 main categories: real estate, cash flowing businesses, stock market. I would talk about high risk investing with angel investing and cryptocurrency. I would talk about the exact same topics, but I would mix in different companies, different stories, different reasons for the exact same thing of building a strategy. As you listen to this podcast today, you might be like, oh, I love high risk investing. I want to do more of that. You can change the numbers of 40-40-20 how you please. I do it to control myself because I know I would go all in over here on high risk investing because it's fun and it's exciting. But I can't do that because the money gets locked up for a long time, and you sometimes have liquidity events, and you sometimes wait a long time. But I can't go all the way in on the boring stuff. I don't want to make 5%, 7% a year with all my capital. I want some of my capital to do that because that boring money does compound. After you listen to this podcast, tonight, you should look up what's called a compound calculator. Put in your age, let's say you're 40 years old, and put in your retirement date, let's say 70 years old, so 30 years. Then you put in an amount. Let's call it $1,000 a month, 12 grand for the year. And then put in a reasonable percentage that you think you can make back. Let's call it 9% a year. If you do that, you put up a compound calculator. I think you can do avengerscalculator.com. Try that. Go to avengerscalculator.com. It's free. I'm just saying it as a fun place to go to. See if that one works. Type in your age, 40 years old. Type in retirement date, 70 years old, so 30 years. Type in $12,000 for the year. And that 9% for the year. That should return, I'm guessing, was it like $500,000 to $1 million? I think we're going to have Trevor look it up right now. No, you're not going to look it up right now? But if you do it for even a couple years longer, it compounds even more to come around $1 million to $2 million just from you investing 12 grand a year. What's interesting is instead of you do 12 grand a year, instead of in one payment, if you actually do $1,000 a month, it rapidly compounds even faster. It's really weird. It's just math. Look up a compound calculator, find an investment that you like, something that's steady that can make you 7%, 8%, 9% for the year. Contribute capital to that over and over and over, and you will retire with $1 million to $2 million with just 12 grand a year. But what if you increase it to 14,000, and then later you made some more money, made it 16 or 18,000, and over 20,000 for the year? The numbers get crazier and crazier because math and time compounds. Now imagine, before we go, if you did this for your 5-year-old son and your 8-year-old daughter, and you just every single year, every single month, chipped in a couple $100. Maybe not $1,000 a month or 12 grand for the year, but a couple $100, whatever you could afford, over and over and over. Well, little Johnny and little Susie, when they get to college or they get older to want to get married or they want to buy a house, 20, 30 years from now, holy smokes, you've got $500,000, $1 million or more saved up for them just by chipping in a couple $100 a month, $500 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever you can afford. So look up compound calculators. Make sure to check out themoneymondays.com. We go live every single Monday at 4 p.m. PST, where I go on there personally and I do live teaching on Zoom. Themoneymondays.com. It's $200 a month. All of that profit goes to the wild jungle. So if you want to go in there and chip in $200 a month, all that money goes right outside to feed zebras and camels and ostriches and take care of 200 animals. But during those Zoom calls, we talk about money bluntly, the way I did today. We do live Q&A sessions where I'll answer live questions, and I'll bring on other CEOs, other investors, other friends to come on there and host as well, so you can learn from other people, not just me all the time. But I appreciate you guys checking out themoneymondays.com. I appreciate you guys sharing, commenting, liking, subscribing, and I hope that you have more discussions about money with your friends, family, and followers. We will see you guys next Monday.